Hello, this is my Leaguestarter guide for my VD Spellslinger Elementalist. With 3.27, this build received a 45% more damage buff that I believe will push it over the edge to be a solid all-around Leaguestarter. This build can do all forms of content, and in this video I will go over the mechanics of the build, as well as all the gear, gems, jewels, and the passive tree, including a full POB with step-by-step leveling, and a written guide which I will link below. I will now go into a brief overview of the mechanics of the build. The core of the build is Spellslinger, which will trigger any linked spells when you attack with a wand skill. This then reserves mana based on the cost and reservation multipliers of your supports. Spellslinger functions very similarly to Cast on Crit, where you have breakpoints based on your total cooldown reduction and your attack speed. However, it is much more forgiving than Cast on Crit because of Frenzy linked with barrage support. Now, normally, if I just turn on the Spellslingers here and then attack and hold it down, you can see it's not going to have like a perfect cast time. I'm clearly attacking and it's missing some casts. But if you slot in barrage support, it actually smooths out the curve of your breakpoints that you need. That is because when you attack with Frenzy, it releases a line of projectiles, and each time a projectile goes out, it attempts to trigger your Spellslingers. Our main skill is Volatile Dead. Corpses near the targeted location explode, dealing damage in a small area, creating an orb which moves towards nearby enemies before dealing spell damage in a larger area. The explosion of the corpse is not affected by modifiers to spell damage and cannot be reflected. We do not care about the corpse damage at all here. We are focused entirely on the damage of the balls, but the skill requires corpses. That is where Desecrate comes into play, along with Spellslinger support on both, which will automatically trigger any spell linked to it when you use a wand attack skill, which for us is Frenzy. So if I just activate our Volatile Dead Spellslinger here, you see that nothing will happen. Vice versa, if I activate our other Spellslinger setup with Desecrate, it will then lay corpses on the ground, which allows our Volatile Dead to proc. Just by attacking with Frenzy, you automatically create all this, and as you see, they create all these little balls, which will then go and heat seek out to enemies and explode. This combination takes us from what would normally be a 2-button playstyle to a nice smooth 1-button playstyle. Move around the map, right-click, and that's it. I want to briefly talk about the Runegraft of Time, something that I feel like a lot of people have looked over and why it is so good for Spellslinger. Runegraft of Time says 20% chance for skills not to consume a cooldown on use. Now this is incredibly good because every single time you cast Frenzy with Barrage, each projectile leaving your character is going to attempt to cast Spellslinger. So when you do hit that 20% chance to skip cooldowns, your first little bolt of Frenzy will proc, then it'll skip the cooldown, and immediately the second bolt of Frenzy will immediately trigger your Spellslinger again. When that does proc, it's going to end up looking something like this, where you spawn twice as many balls, and it is a huge more multiplier to your DPS. As for our gem setups, we are using Spellslinger, linked with Volatile Dead, Inspiration, Fire Penetration, Spell Cascade, and Immolate. Frenzy, linked with Combustion, Faster Attacks, Barrage. Spellslinger, Desecrate, Spell Cascade, with a Lightning Golem anywhere. A Flesh and Stone anywhere, with a Stone Golem anywhere, and a Flame Golem anywhere. Shield Charge, linked with Faster Attacks, Flammability anywhere, and Chaos Golem anywhere, along with Tempest Shield, Wave of Conviction, and Frost Blink, all of which can go anywhere. So I just want to pop into the POB real quick and talk about some things. Here's our day 1 setup. We are in all 2 to 1 stat gear on literally every piece. This is what I'm expecting. You have something like all of this, you know, plus some resistances on day 1. And for that, you get, you know, 1.3, 1.4 mil DPS. That's pretty solid, and I'll take that. Want to talk about the configs here real quick. Cap your resistances. That's self-explanatory. Shaper of Flames, there's a calc in here for that, because it doesn't properly calculate your physical max hit. As you can see in config, we have enemy is burning and enemy is ignited. And then Shaper of Flames, enemies ignited by you have 40% of Fizz deal converted to fire. This is the exact same thing basically as having 40% of damage taken as physical damage taken as fire if you don't have any other sources. But as you can see, if you take this off, Fizz max hit does not move. Your EHP does move though, so keep in mind this is inflating the EHP a little bit. I have no way. I've tried everything I could think of to get rid of this. I can't, so just keep that in mind. I didn't want to leave it off in the build because, you know, someone's going to leave it off, and yeah. Anyways, moving down to Spellslinger, 15% more damage buff on Spellslinger. It's going from 31% less to 20% less. That's 11% less difference. However, with how less damage works, it's actually more like a 16% more damage multiplier, but I just put in 15. VD has received a 25% more damage buff on the ball portion, which is all the damage that is calculated by the spell here for VD. And then it also got moved from 170% added damage effectiveness to 210. So I put 30. I feel like it's a fair and conservative estimate. Other than that, again, all 2-stat gear with the Pyro Shock class. Nothing really going on here. 6th link is on in the day 1 setup, because if you use the breach mechanic, there is a note on the tree that says 150 rerolls of sockets and links for your items created through the tree. You tick that, I guarantee you will have a 6th link before you are in red maps on day 1. So don't forget to do that and go get your free 6th link. Other than that, I do not have the Runegraft of Time in here or the Runegraft of Time calc on the day 1 setup, although I do think you should aim to gain a Runegraft of Time on day 2 as soon as possible. It's 20% more damage. It's going to be a huge buff. Moving into the mid-game setup here, this is your day, you know, 2, late day 2, day 3, maybe day 4 if you're, you know, you're not playing a lot, stuff like that setup. And we're still non-crit. We're on Elemental Overload still. A Fire Light of Meaning in here. I think you should reasonably be able to get this on day, you know, 3, 4 or so. These things, Fire Light of Meanings are untouched. Who plays fire skills? Nobody, you know. Next up, what else do we have in here? Calcs have now been changed just to add in the Runegraft of Time. I put 15% more damage, even though it's more like, I mean, it is 20% more damage, but just in case, you know, maybe you skip a cooldown or, you know, you're doing something weird, 15% I feel like is a conservative estimate. Other than that, all the gear is still all the same. 2-stat, 3-stat gear. I got a replica Dragon's Length Fight on now, and Polaric Devastation. Hopefully these aren't too expensive. There is also the not Runegraft, but grafted arm breach thing that they showed that does have covered in ash, so it's possible that this just goes out the window and you just use that instead and you just wear a normal ring, and so that cost will be gone. Still very cheap though. All the items are still 2-3 stat items besides that. And then moving into the mid-game crit swap setup, this is where I am a bit sad, and it's where I got a little bit hung up on the build. The only way I see you can go crit and swap to a crit version on this is with the Sandstorm Visage. Your alternative is going to be a multi-link Arcdaemon Crown helmet with like 3% crit. You can craft one of those, kind of jank and kind of cheap early on if you want to try doing that. I did play around with that. You can do it. But the cleanest option is really just to throw on a Sandstorm Visage. And so hopefully by the time you get into the crit setup, these things aren't too bad and you can grab one of those. Other than that, you know, we're getting into 3-stat gear now. We got a 3-stat wand or 4-stat wand. Just get a fracture and then slam some essences into it. Our shield here is pretty good, but you can actually get a shield like this pretty easily with recombinators. The increased energy shield is just showing that you want to go for it, but you just really need the block, spell block, and recover energy shield when you block. You can recombinate these super easy. I'll be doing that, and I'll be doing that on like day 3 or something. Next up, just a decent 1000 ES chest with some implicits, gloves, same gloves as before, sage slippers, 3-stat boots, you know, 3-stat ring, and cooldown recovery on the boots and on the belt if possible. Still wearing the Dragon's Length Flight and now have a Shavron's Revelation. As we are CI, I haven't 100% decided if I want to go the CI or want to go the hybrid now. For now, I'm putting it down to CI because I think that's what it's going to end up being. So this is a day one character I put together to test out the build. We have a 1-stat wand, a 2-stat helmet, 3-stat shield, a really terrible chest piece, an okay ring gear, life res, a little bit of fire damage on there actually. Ring I threw 2 fire essences at, okay pair of gloves, 1 C belt, and a decent pair of boots with crafted movement speed. So that's going to be it from me. If you like this video or if it helped you out, leave it a like, and if you want to see updates to this build or more builds I do in the future, subscribe now. If you see this video, chances are I'm live right now, and I'll be live every day during League Start, so if you have any questions, you can find me at twitch.tv/pathofky. Just going to leave a little bit of raw footage at the end here showcasing a full map in this day 1 gear character, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Subscribe now and like the video.